Be sure to avoid these 5 common drumming pitfalls. Ranging from gear mistakes to ergonomic mistakes, we're going to talk about what I believe to be the 5 most common drumming pitfalls or drumming bad habits. Let's fix these before they go on any longer or get any worse. Today we'll talk about how to turn these bad habits into good habits that every drummer can utilize. Hey everybody, welcome to The Non-Glamorous Drummer. This is the channel that's all about giving you the non-glamorous tips and topics of the trade so that you can learn the drumming skills that really matter to help you become a better drummer. If you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed, I really hope to earn your subscription. Pitfall number 1. Hitting cymbals too hard. I think we're all equally guilty of this one. It's very easy, because cymbals are naturally loud, it's very easy just to hit them too hard, so we end up with way more cymbal sound than we have drum sound, and they get out of balance. The reason we've got to go lighter on the cymbals is because they're inherently so loud. We've got to keep them a little bit quieter, hit the drums a little harder so that things balance out, and we've got a powerful, punchy drum sound that isn't overcome with cymbal wash. Now, this is a pretty deep topic that we could get way into, talking about the different aspects of this and all the reasons behind a good drum mix, but today we're just touching on it briefly, saying hitting cymbals too hard is a bad habit. Go lighter on the cymbals, heavier on the drums. That's a really good habit to have as a player. Number 2, not practicing fundamentals. Now, you guys probably know, if you've watched a lot of my videos, that I'm really just speaking from personal experience on things like this. And so literally all 5 of these that we're talking about today are bad habits that I've spent plenty of time in and I've had to work to correct. So the second one, not practicing fundamentals, is definitely one that I spent a lot of time in, where I was working on complex, really difficult stuff, which is cool and there's no problem in doing that. But I was getting so into working on the chops and the difficult stuff, getting faster and faster, trying to learn these crazy patterns, that I really wasn't practicing any basics. I wasn't practicing my singles. I wasn't practicing playing slowly. I wasn't practicing basic grooves, basic slow fills. And so really my rock playing was starting to suffer, and my overall listening was starting to suffer too, because I was playing from my hands more. My point here is, what good is our playing if we can't actually play something basic and musical with a band to help tie them together to create a song? The best drummers in the world who are playing on records, sure, they can play the complex stuff, they can do the chops, but what they're also really, really good at is playing something basic really well. Playing really solid time with really good feel, the appropriate groove with the appropriate fills. That's what's ultimately important. And so we tend to kind of slip into a not so great habit of not practicing that, because we think we've got it all together and we think it's fine, but really we need to spend a lot more time on those basics to make sure that they are the absolute best they can be. So form the habit of always going back to the basics, practicing the fundamentals, because those are the things that we're actually going to use the most. Number 3, not stretching or warming up before playing. There's some different factors that play into this, and if your hands are cold or you're actually stiff, or it's an early Sunday morning church gig that I've experienced a lot, then you've really got to be careful and make sure you're loosening up and warming up before you really go at it. Not warming up can lead to stiff playing, or worse yet, injury. So make a habit of stretching, loosening up, warming up to avoid that. I heard a story from a drummer who was playing an early Sunday morning church gig, and he went in and just started playing, doing his usual thing, and he ended up injuring his wrist, like pulling a tendon, something pretty serious, and he had to take 6 months off from playing the drums to heal up before he could really get going again. And so he learned his lesson the hard way, and now he stretches and makes sure he's totally loose and everything's good to go every time he plays. Number 4, ignoring the resonant heads on the drums when tuning. Now, many of you already know this, and we're all well aware that most drums on most drum sets have a top head and a bottom head. But whenever something's wrong or whenever something needs to be retuned, our first reaction is always to go to that top head, because it's conveniently located and it's right there. But a lot of times that's not necessarily the culprit. If there's a weird ring going on or something's just not right and we need to change the overall tone or resonance of the drum, a lot of times the resonant head's actually responsible for that. And so we've got to go to the extra effort to work on retuning that bottom head. So this is really kind of a bad habit of laziness. I'm definitely guilty of this plenty of times, where I'll first start messing with the top head even if nothing's wrong with it, and then later have to go back to the bottom head. So let's make a habit of knowing, number 1, knowing that something could be wrong with that resonant head, and we're going to go there and see if we can find the problem there, because changing the pitch of that resonant head has a huge effect on the overall pitch of the drum and the overall tone and resonance of the drum. We're really selling ourselves short if we're ignoring those resonant heads, or we're not bothering with them, or we're trying to achieve a certain sound without touching them. That's a huge part of the equation that needs to be factored in. Number 5, and this is probably my favorite, which is why I saved it for last. So last and definitely not least, not practicing with a metronome. This is a terrible drumming pitfall and a very bad habit that can easily be turned into a good habit. Let's spin this around from not practicing with a metronome to always making a habit of practicing with a metronome. I think we have an inherent laziness and really Maybe it's our ego as players where we kind of want to avoid facing the fact that our playing rushes a little or drags a little, and we'd rather just kind of push that aside and not think about it and practice without the metronome so we can feel better about our playing in the moment. But number one, that's not how to practice, and number two, it's not serving us in the long run. We've got to get our time better, build up that internal clock, practice with a metronome. That way we can play better without a metronome. The thing is, if you want to be a drummer these days and play any gigs or do any kind of recording, you've got to be really comfortable playing with a metronome. And the only way to do that is to do it all the time, practice to it all the time, and get more and more comfortable and natural playing with the metronome. That way you can play comfortably and naturally and with good time without the metronome. Really, each one of these 5 pitfalls could make a video of its own because a lot of these can really go into pretty complex subjects. So let me know in the comments below, which of these have you faced? Which one do you think is a current pitfall for you right now? Or which ones have you already worked on turning into a good habit and maybe you've seen those benefits in your playing? Tell me about your experiences with each of these 5. Either way, if you are guilty of any of these pitfalls, I hope you're making the effort to spin around and turn these into good habits. Some of them are more serious than others, like the metronome thing or the stretching, warming up thing, but they all have consequences to you as a player. Work on flipping these around into good habits, because if you do that, there will be benefits that you'll be able to reap for years to come in your playing. Especially the stretching to avoid injury and the practicing with a metronome. Those are my favorites, and those are probably the most important to form good habits around. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching, and subscribers, thank you for watching my videos and for commenting and for sharing. You guys are the greatest. And if you haven't yet subscribed, I really hope to earn your subscription. I hope you'll join this community of all of us non-glamorous drummers working to get better at what we do. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great weekend. I will see you next week.